Okay, Friday, day number 20 in the month of January 2023. Yeah, some people would say it's too early actually, but still, countdown to the year 2024 has begun already. And of course, out of the 365 days we've got in the year 2023, today is day number 20. That actually leaves us with 345 days left in the year 2023. Once again, 345 days, and we're going to be saying Happy New Year 2024. Okay, that's actually not to rush you. That's not to, make you start thinking about your New Year resolutions and start making you jump into conclusions and make mistakes, actually. But it's to remind you that the year is gradually winding to an end. And of course, every goals that you've actually set for yourself to achieve before the year runs out, it's not too early. Time is going already. You need to kickstart right now. And of course, try as much as possible to avoid the late minute rush that comes with the end of the year preparations and everything. Good afternoon, 2:17 p.m. Nigerian time in the studios of King 103.9 FM. And of course, it's time once again to bring you another exciting edition of World in Review on this dial, King 103.9 FM. Yeah, my name is Ajibola Samuel, your regular host on the show. And of course, on the show every Friday afternoons, we'll bring you the news that made the headlines throughout the course of the week. Is outside of the shores of the country, Nigeria. We try to break things down for you, give you an analytical perspective so as to have a perfect understanding of what's going on around the world. Yeah, quite a lot of people are fixated on happenings in the Nigerian scene. Quite a lot of people are not even thinking about anything else except, the election that is just some couple of days, or let me say weeks away. And some people do not even know that there are some couple of interesting events that are happening outside of the shores of the country. This show is meant to bring you those happenings and, of course, help you have a perfect understanding of what's going on around the world. Yeah, once again, this is King 103.9 FM. And the program you are listening to is World in Review. And, of course, it's the voice of Ajibola Samuel. Welcome on board once again. Yeah, we start from the African continent every Friday on the show. Like I used to say, Ile Latin Keshoro Day. And of course, if we don't talk about our own news, of course, the outside world wouldn't discuss those pertinent issues about us, actually. So we start from the African continent before we go to other part of the world. North America, South America, Europe, Atlantica, Oceania, Asia, and of course, try as much as possible to bring you all the news that happen from there with the little times we actually have in front of us. So once again, without further ado, we'll be starting from the African continent once again. And starting from the African continent, quite a lot of news from different continents in Africa. Where should we start from? Okay, let's start from Gambia. Okay, if you've been following the news, especially when I was rounding up the biggest political events, on the African continent for the year 2022, Gambia was one of those countries that actually made my list. And of course, it was as a result of an attempted coup that actually happened in Gambia. Okay, about 2 weeks on the show, we told you about the arrests that have been made, the civilian arrests, and of course, some couple of arrests that have been made as far as the failed coup in 2022 that happened in Gambia, was concerned. And as it stands right, okay, let me try as much as possible to brush, our memories and see if we can go back in time to help us understand what actually transpired.
Also, reports are pointing to the suspected involvement of sponsors for the coup plot from civilian collaborators who are both within and outside of the country. The investigations are seriously looking into this angle. In addition, in accordance with the laws of the Gambia and in line with international best practice, the Gambia government has constituted a joint investigation team to investigate the alleged coup plot.
Okay, the last time we talked about this, it was reported that 3 persons have actually been arrested, 2 civilians, and of course 1 police officer. Well, as it stands right now, 8 officers have now been identified as suspects in the alleged coup plot. The International Police Agency, Interpol, actually issued a red notice for foreign nations to arrest a military officer accused of plotting to overthrow the government in the Gambia last month. The local officials actually made this known to newsmen earlier this week. And the red notice for the low-ranking Gambian officer, his name is Lamin Jadama, means that right now 8 officers have not been identified as suspects in the alleged coup plots. Gambian officials say he is a fugitive from justice, and any person caught aiding or colluding with him will be dealt with according to law. Well, as it stands right now, 7 of the accused, including the alleged ringleader Lance Corporal Sana Fadera, have actually been arrested, and it is said that they appeared in the High Court in capital Banjul on charges of treason and conspiracy to commit felony. 2 civilians and a police officer were also in court on charges of treason and concealment of treason. The accused were expected to file a plea, but this actually did not happen. Instead, the case was postponed as the states did not file its indictment, and 2 of the accused soldiers did not have any legal representation. It was said that Justice Bashiru Mahoney ordered the states to file the indictment by the 23rd of January. He also ordered the 2 unrepresented soldiers to get a lawyer, or for the states to provide them with legal aids. 7 officers have been arrested. They were paraded, and of course they were sent to court. And one other officer, his name once again is Lamin Jadama, is said to be on the run right now. And of course the Gambian officers have actually issued a red notice to the Interpol to help in capturing and of course arresting him, so that those who planned the coup can actually be prosecuted. Okay, leaving the coup planned and of course the failed coup in Gambia. Still in Gambia, Gambia actually is in mourning right now, a state of mourning and of course a sorrowful state right now, as Gambia's vice president actually dies after a short illness in India. The Gambia's vice president, his name is Badara Aliyu Diouf, has died of illness in India. President Adama Barrow actually made this known on Wednesday. The vice president, 65 years old, was appointed vice president of the West African country in 2022. He actually previously served as the education minister from 2017 to 2022. And Barrow said on Twitter that Diouf had died after an illness without actually providing further details, including when he died. Okay, reading right now, according to the president of the Gambia, President Adama Barrow, he wrote on Twitter, and I quote, "Fellow Gambians, it is with a heavy heart that I announce the passing away of my Vice President, His Excellency Badara Aliyu Diouf. The sad event took place in India after a short illness. May Allah grant him Jannatul Firdausi." Where they said that the vice president had left the Gambia about 3 weeks ago to seek medical treatment and had not been seen in public for months before the troop. Well, in case you don't know, this vice president was the 4th deputy to serve under Barrow since his historic win in 2016. And like I said earlier, he was the former education minister before he was appointed in, of course, 2022. And in case you don't know, Diouf was the 4th deputy, the 4th vice president to actually serve under this particular president, Adama Barrow, since he has been the president of that country since 2016.
The vice president president has fallen ill some few weeks ago. He was actually admitted at a local hospital briefly, and thereafter he was ferried to India for overseas treatment. And unfortunately, after recovering well, he had actually planned to return this coming Saturday. Early this morning, we got the devastating news that he has expired. The president, in honor of the former vice president.
Okay, the voice of a representative of the Gambia's government actually intimating us with what transpired with the vice presidents. Well, as it stands right now, like I said earlier, Gambia is actually in a state of mourning right now. Gambia has actually declared 7 days of mourning after the vice president died. Yeah, the Gambia's president, Adama Barrow, has declared 7 days of mourning following the death of his vice president Badara Ali Youth at the age of 66. He was thought to have been receiving treatment in India after a short illness, but the government has actually not confirmed this. Well, as it stands right now, a government statement described Mr. Youth as a scholar of profound intellect and an honest Gambian who has spent his entire life trying to improve the lot of mankind. So, a 7 days mourning has been declared to actually respect the memories of the dead vice president.
That he has expired. The president, in honor of the former vice president, Badara Ali Youth, has declared a 7-day national mourning with all Gambian flags and all flags in the country flying at half staff, like they say in the United States, and half mast in the British-speaking world, that is. He actually was very close to the president. The president had always seen him as a big brother. He was a teacher to most of us, myself inclusive, several of the ministers.
May the gentle soul of Aliu Badara rest in perfect peace. And of course, we pray that God grants his family and of course the entire Gambia and the fortitude to bear the loss. Okay, moving forward quickly. Yeah, one of the biggest political events that I also discussed in the year 2022, or one of the biggest events, not political right now, was the Sudanese variant of Ebola outbreak that actually rocked different provinces in Uganda. That's the Uganda Ebola outbreak, the one that happened September 2022. Of course, rocked quite a lot of province, Mubende and the Kassanda province especially. Well, good news from Uganda as it stands right now. Last week, the Uganda government declared an end to its Ebola outbreak less than 4 months after cases were first reported. Well, since the 20th day in the month of September 2022, 56 people have died from the virus, which spread through body fluids, and it's been reported that about 142 confirmed cases were in their country. Well, after 2 incubation periods, that's 21 days each, the country has reported no new infections in more than 42 days, twice the maximum incubation period of the virus, a World Organization benchmark for a country to actually be declared Ebola virus free. Yeah, Uganda put a swift end to the Ebola outbreak by ramping up key control measures such as surveillance, contact tracing, and infection prevention and control, said the health minister, Dr. Jane Ruth, when they actually made this known when they were declaring the end to Ebola virus in their country. The magic bullet has been a community. Well, the latest outbreak of the Sudan strain of the virus was one of the worst outbreak that Uganda has actually experienced in 2 decades. And as it stands right now, there is currently no vaccine against the strain of the virus that they were battling with in Uganda at that point in time. Remember, there are 2 variants of Ebola in the world right now: the Zaire variant, the one that is common in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and of course the one from the Sudan, and the Sudanese variant of Ebola virus. And of course it was the Sudanese variant of Ebola virus that rocked them in Uganda We're talking about vaccines. The vaccines to prevent Ebola virus right now is the one that works effectively against the DR Congo variant, the Zaire variant of Ebola virus. Yeah, the latest outbreak of the Sudan strain of the virus was one of the worst, like I said, experienced in 2 decades. And the outbreak began in Mubende district in central Uganda, and of course it spread to neighboring counties like the Kasanda counties. Cases were also reported in the capital Kampala, and the 2 districts were placed under months of lockdown. But the good news right now is that after 42 days, twice the incubation period of any virus, especially the Ebola virus in that particular country, the benchmark set by the World Health Organization, finally Uganda has been declared Ebola free. Okay, let's take a quick trip outside of the studio and get to monitor or try to intimate ourselves with the happenings and how the things went down when Uganda actually declared that they were Ebola virus free. You're going to hear the voice of the health minister, Dr. Ruth Aceng, and of course some of the health practitioners that help in the fight against Ebola virus, and of course representative of the World Health Organization.
I now confirm that all transmission chains have been fully interrupted and take this opportunity to declare that the outbreak is over and Uganda is now free of active Ebola transmission. Money alone cannot end it. Health workers cannot end it. The structures we have in place cannot end it. So the most important people in this response are the communities, the population of Mubende and Kasanda.
To our gratification, Uganda has proved it again. Even the most dangerous virus can be contained.
In 2022, we're able to demonstrate to the whole world that you can handle the most dangerous pathogen in a mobile lab.
And even if the current outbreak is declared over today, we cannot let down our guard. We still have a 90 days follow-up period ahead of us with increased and reinforced surveillance as well as survivor support and guidance to avoid reinfections.
The lack of approved therapeutics and vaccines for Sudan Ebola virus highlighted an opportunity for strengthening partnerships for rigorous research. Having candidate vaccines and therapeutics might improve our ability to prevent deaths during the next outbreak.
Our focus going forward will be to work with the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, and the district local governments to support the government in developing a system for disease surveillance, ensuring basic minimum services are.
Okay, finally, after over 3 months that they've been battling Ebola virus in Uganda, finally it is over after about 42 days and no new cases were actually reported. Well, findings, of course, monitorings are still going on actually, and according to the statement from the World Health Organization and some couple of other health representatives in Uganda, they are still monitoring the situation on ground, and of course there is still a 90-day follow-up process that they are engaging in to help to confirm that they are finally, dealt the last blow to Ebola virus in Uganda. Okay, moving forward quickly, still talking something that is virus related. Yeah, Malawi has been battling the country's biggest cholera outbreak in over 20 years right now, and of course they've been working with the World Health Organization, the World Health Organization WHO, which was working with the Malawian government and other partners to help curb the outbreak, said schools will be equipped with sanitation equipment, and some couple of other steps have been taken. Yeah, Rebecca Adadonto, the new United Nations coordinator in Malawi, started work at the beginning of January. And the cholera outbreak, which was declared in March last year, resulted in more than 23,000 cases and nearly 800 deaths in that country. In December, ahead of our arrival, 7,000 cases were recorded in a month, which actually forced authorities in that country, Malawi, to declare a health emergency. And of course, schools in two of the biggest cities in Malawi, Lilongwe and Blantyre, were actually shut down, and of course, resumption of the schools were postponed by about 2 weeks. If you've been following, past editions of the show, we've been talking about this particular incident, the cholera outbreak in Malawi, and of course, how schools are affected. But the good news right now is that schools have reopened following a deadly cholera outbreak, thanks to the efficient work of the WHO and of course the health authorities in Malawi. Yeah, schools in the capital Lilongwe and commercial hub Blantyre had remained closed for at least 2 weeks after the Christmas holiday. The cholera outbreak began in March last year and so far had killed nearly 800 people. Infection are still high in Lilongwe and Blantyre, but Health Minister Kimbize Chiponda said that schools now have access to safe water and improved sanitation facilities, which will go a long way in reducing infections reported in the schools. And the minister was very optimistic that infections in schools will reduce due to the improved sanitation facilities. And as it stands right now, Malawi is among the 31 countries globally hardest hit by the cholera virus. Okay, time is fast spent already. Let's take a quick trip outside of the studio once again and get to listen to, we'll do a build up to this particular cholera outbreak in Uganda, in Malawi, and of course we try as much as possible to paint a picture of what it's like with school reopening.
The cholera outbreak has affected some of the country's districts. Particularly, we are having problems in the two capital, Lilongwe, the capital Lilongwe, and the commercial city Blantyre. That's where the outbreak has hit hard. So that's why, and yesterday on January 2nd. The task force on cholera and the COVID-19 issued a statement that the school opening has to be postponed for these two cities.
Okay, build up to that particular news that I just read some couple of minutes ago, and of course, as it stands right now, 2 weeks extension of holidays, and right now schools are gradually returning back. And of course, educational activities are beginning to happen in the capital cities once again.
We have in buckets where will be put water to wash their hands and soap. We also have disinfectants, chlorine for cleaning the toilets and the classrooms.
The supplies UNICEF has brought in will help 89 schools in both Lilongwe and Blantyre, it will.
Okay, I can't believe our time is running fast. 2:39 p.m. Nigerian time in the studios of King 103.9 FM. Okay, let's try as much as possible to bring you this series of news. There's been a spate of different terrorist attack across different African countries over the past couple of weeks. Okay, let's start with this. Suspected jihadists actually kidnapped 50 women in Burkina Faso. Yeah, many of the women had been picking fruits because there was nothing left to eat, as long as running insurgency actually eats food supplies in that region of their country. Yeah, it is said, according to the news, that suspected jihadists have abducted about 50 women in insurgency-racked northern Burkina Faso. Local officials and residents actually made this known earlier this week. Roughly 40 were seized around 12 kilometers east of Abinda on Thursday, and about 20 others were abducted on Friday to the north of the town. The sources actually made this known on condition of anonymity. It was also reported that several managed to escape and return to their villages to raise alarm. Yeah, since 2015, the landlocked country Burkina Faso is one of the world's poorest and most volatile countries and has been grappling with an insurgency led by jihadists affiliated with the Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State group that has killed tens of thousands and of course has displaced around 2 million people. Also in Somalia, police said on Sunday that 8 people were killed in a roadside bombing claimed by Al-Shabaab in the central Somalia, where a major offensive is underway to actually help retake the territory from jihadists. The attack occurred on Saturday afternoon in Bolobode, a city in Iran district where government forces and clan militias have been battling the Al-Qaeda-linked insurgents since the middle of last year. Yeah, it was reported that the bomber detonated a car laden with explosive near an administrative building, said Abdullahi Mahmoud, a local police officer. A local police commander. 5 people were killed on the spot, while 3 others died overnight in the hospital. He said on Sunday, adding that the bomber had been planning to destroy the city's main bridge before redirecting the attack to a civilian area. Witnesses also said the explosion damaged buildings and the city main mosque, where a second attack was foiled and the suspects detained trying to flee a vehicle packed with explosive. Police said Al-Shabaab actually claimed responsibility for all 3 attacks in a message transmitted via its communication service. Also in the Democratic Republic of Congo, a bomb killed at least 10 people and wounded 39 others as the bomb actually ripped through a church in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo on Sunday in an attack that is blamed on suspected Islamists. Yeah, a Congolese military spokesperson, Anthony Mwalashai, said the terrorist act happened in a Pentecostal church in the North Kivu province, Kasandi, a town on the border with Uganda. It was reported that the explosion killed at least 10 people and wounded 39. He also added, revising up an initial death toll of about 5 people.
We heard a loud noise coming from the church and we didn't know what was happening. It was only after some minutes that we were informed about the bomb attack. We have many victims among members of the church, unfortunately.
We have too many victims of these attacks in our city of Kasindi. We are all affected by this situation, and it has touched our brothers and sisters.
A bomb exploded inside a packed church. It caused many deaths and injuries. It is clear that this terrorist act was carried out by terrorists of the ADF.
Unfortunately, 10 people have been reported to have died, and of course about 39 others actually injured. Okay, we still got quite a lot of news from the African continent. Protests in Tunisia and some couple of other happenings on the continent. But time is fast spent already. It's 2:45 p.m. Nigerian time here right now in the studios of King 103.9 FM. I have to leave the African continent right now and of course try as much as possible to bring you the news from other parts of the world. Yeah, as we build up to some couple of interesting things happening outside of the African continent. Okay, leaving the African continent right now, where should I go first? I've got news from Asia, got news from Oceania, Atlantica. Okay, let's start from Europe. Okay, Jacinda Ardern, the Prime Minister, the very lovely Prime Minister of New Zealand, shocked everybody earlier this week as she actually announced her resignation. The New Zealand's Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern, has said she's resigning in an unexpected announcement that came as she confirmed a national election for October. At the party's first caucus meeting of the year on Thursday, Jacinda Ardern said she no longer had enough in the tank to do the job and it was time to actually resign, she added. Well, her term as the Prime Minister will conclude no later than the 7th day in the month of February, but she will continue as an MP until election actually hold later this year, October. Yeah, Ardern said she had reflected over the summer break on whether she had the energy to continue in the role, and had concluded that she did not have enough energy to actually conclude and to continue as the Prime Minister of New Zealand. Ardern became the world's youngest female head of government when she was elected as Prime Minister in 2017 at the age of 37. Well, she led New Zealand through the COVID-19 pandemic, a series of disasters, including a terrorist attack on two mosques, if you remember, and that particular tragic event in Christchurch, New Zealand, just a couple of years ago, and a White Island volcanic eruption. So it came to the world as a shock when someone who the world expected that she's enjoying the goodwill of the citizens of our nation, and of course people believe she's doing brilliantly well in her role, to come up and of course announce resignation. Okay, a quick trip outside of the studio and we'll get to hear from the horse's mouths Jacinda Ardern actually telling us about her resignation.
And so today I'm announcing that I will not be seeking re-election, and that my term as Prime Minister will conclude no later than the 7th of February. This has been the most fulfilling 5.5 years of my life. I am leaving because with such a privileged role comes responsibility. The responsibility to know when you are the right person to lead, and also when you are not. I know what this job takes, and I know that I no longer have enough in the tank to do it justice. It's that simple. I know there will be much discussion in the aftermath of this decision as to what the so-called real reason was. I can tell you that what I'm sharing today is it. The only interesting angle that you will find is that after going on 6 years of some big challenges, I am human. Politicians are human. We give all that we can for as long as we can, and then it's time. And for me, it's time. And that I'm looking forward to spending time with my family once again. Arguably, they're the ones that have sacrificed the most out of all of us. And so to Neve, Mum is looking forward to being there when you start school this year. And to Clark, let's finally get married. I want to finish with a simple thank you to New Zealanders for giving me this opportunity to serve and to take on what has and will always be the greatest role of my life. I hope in return, I leave behind a belief that you can be kind but strong, empathetic but decisive, optimistic but focused, that you can be your own kind of leader, one that knows.
The voice of Jacinda Ardern, the Prime Minister of New Zealand. Of course, it was an heartbreaking moment, and of course, you heard her actually lay her reasons bare as to why she's going to be stepping down. And of course, like I said earlier, she's still going to remain a member of parliament up until October, when new elections will be held. But she's expected that this particular tenure should come to an end on the 7th day in the month of February 2023. Okay, quite a lot of controversies actually, and quite a lot of talking points from that particular event. But unfortunately, time is fast spent. We have to move, on to the next item. We're still talking about resignations. Vietnam's rubber stamp National Assembly on Wednesday approved the resignation of the president of that country, Nguyen Xuan, a day after he dramatically stepped down as part of an anti-corruption drive. Yeah, his sudden and unprecedented departure comes during a period of significant political upheaval in Vietnam, where the anti-graft purge and factional fighting have seen several ministers being fired in that country. Yeah, in an extraordinary meeting that was close to international media, more than 93% of the National Assembly members voted to approve the president's resignation. Yeah, with no successor yet appointed, it is said that voting and Xuan, the current vice president, will automatically become the interim president according to the constitution. Well, a brief lowdown. Authoritarian Vietnam is being run by the Communist Party, and officially it is led by the General Secretary, the President, and of course the Prime Ministers. And of course they said that key decisions are made by the Politburo, which now numbers 16. As it stands right now, the sudden departure of the president is a highly unusual move in Vietnam, where political changes are normally carefully orchestrated with an emphasis on cautious stability. Well, on Tuesday, the Communist Party ruled the 68-year-old was actually responsible. That's talking about the president that stepped down, was responsible for wrongdoing by senior ministers under him during his 2016 to 2021 stint as the prime minister before he actually became the president. And this led to an anti-corruption war, and quite a lot of secrets being let out. Well, two deputy prime minister, Pham Binh Minh and Vu Duc Dam, were also sacked this month in an anti-corruption purge that has led to the arrest of dozens of officials, with many of the graft allegations relating to deals done as part of the Vietnam's COVID-19 response. Yeah, so you see people resigning as a result of, corruption allegations being leveled against them, and of course investigations, being carried out upon their properties and everything. And of course you see people resigning in the European countries as a result of them believing that they can't take their country higher than they have done anymore, and they want to leave the shore for someone better to come on board and of course continue the job from there. I hope, one day the African continent also will get this kind of situations where a president will come out and say, okay, because of this allegation that has been leveled against me, I want to resign my position so that, a thorough investigation can be done, or because of my health issue, I want to resign my position. Well, hopefully, my prayer will get answered one day, and I hope that you are saying amen to my prayers out there. Okay, moving forward quickly, back in Europe, the world oldest person recorded, the world oldest person, she is known as Sister Andre. She's a French nun. We got news earlier this week that she died at the age of 118. So that's the world oldest person, according to reports. Well, so this news is from courtesy of the BBC. The world oldest person, French nun Lucie Randon. Of course, like I said earlier, she is known as Sister Andre, and died age 118. Mrs. Randon, who assumed the name Sister Andre when she became a nun in 1944, died in her sleep at a nursing home in Toulon, France. She was born in 1904 in southern France. She lived through 2 world wars and actually dedicated, she probably saw the last war that is going on right now, also the Cold War, and of course the war in Ukraine right now. So you can see quite a lot of wars, the 100 Days Wars and everything. She lived through 2 world wars, like I said earlier, and dedicated much of her life to Catholicism. Only the good Lord knows the secret of her longevity, she actually told reporters. Sister Andre was born into a Protestant family, but later converted to Catholicism before being baptized when she was 26 years old. Driven by a desire to go forward, she joined an order of nuns known as the Daughters of Charity about 15 years after her decision to join the Catholic Church. She was assigned to a hospital in Vichy, where she spent most of her working life, about 31 years. In one of her last interviews, she told reporters people should help each other and love each other instead of hating. If we shared all that, things would be a lot better. So she had been Europe's eldest person alive for some time, but she entered the Guinness Book of Records last year, April 2022, as the world oldest person, following the death of Ken Tanaka. a Japanese woman who actually lived up until 119 years old. So after Ken Tanaka died age 119, Sister Andre became the oldest person in the world, age 117 as at that point in time. It was not her first time in the record books. In 2021, she actually became the oldest person to recover from COVID-19. What a very interesting story. When quite a lot of young ones died as a result of COVID-19, she, at age 117, still survived COVID-19. Well, unfortunately, we lost her earlier this week, and may her gentle soul rest in perfect peace. Okay, our time is fast spent already. I have to, apply break on today's edition of the show. Okay, let me round up with this piece of news. China's population is shrinking. And of course, it is reported that it is shrinking for the first time in about 60 years. China's population shrank last year for the first time in more than 6 decades. That's about 60 years. Official data actually showed this on Tuesday as the birth rate slows in the face of mounting financial pressures and shifting social attitude. Well, according to statistics, the mainland Chinese population stood at 1,411,750,000 at the end of 2022. The National Bureau of Statistics actually reported a decrease of about 850,000 from the previous year. Well, this number, the number of births was 9.56 million, the MBS said, while the number of deaths stood at 10.41 million. Well, in case you don't know, China has been trying as much as possible to help curb the population shrinking. China ended its strict one-child policy imposed in the 1980s owing to fears of overpopulation. Even in 2016, they began allowing couples to have about 3 children in 2021. Even in some counties in China, they were offering to help to take care of any newborn child up until 3 years old, and of course give money and grants to couples who had just given birth. But despite all those measures that the Chinese counties and of course different cities have taken, still population is shrinking in China. Well, time is fast spent right now. I have to say my BYEs on today's edition of the show. This program was streamed live on Facebook, so you probably want to catch up with something that you missed. You can join us on our Facebook platform, King FM 1039 Ibadan. Write it together as one word, no space. And of course, like, follow, become part of the King FM family. Have a wonderful day ahead of you. Stay safe out there. Au revoir.